I grew up in Manassas, Virginia, born and raised, yeah. The Marines would come to Manassas on Liberty when I was just a youngster. And they inspired me more so than the other branches of the service. A letter came to the high school in Manassas that they were going to accept blacks in the Marine Corps. That was my opportunity when they said that we could enlist. So I enlisted. 3 of us enlisted out of high school, June the 4th, 1943. That was when I volunteered. That was my order, that I was to be in the 51st Defense Battalion.
I enlisted in Macon, Georgia, and that's where I grew up at. The little group we was hanging around with, we wanted to go into the service. We need to get out of that town. So I said, what about the Marines? And that came to the point that they was a little bit too rough. I said, well, if anybody made it through boot camp, I'll make it. And that's how the Marine Corps suffers. There was no exception for us. If you went into Jacksonville, you had to hurry me across the railroad tracks. Then you went to jail. So there was no, because you was in uniform. And a lot of times, some of the white Marines, they didn't know we was in this Marine Corps.
Well, was the Commandant, I guess, of Camp Lejeune. At the bus station, they were segregated. White on one side, as you know, black on the other side. And they had jukebox and food and stuff on the white side. And the Commandant either talked to, it might have been Treyway or the mayor of Jacksonville, that they had to have everything on the side of the bus terminal for blacks that they had on the white side, or else he was going to put the city of Jacksonville off limits. So we got the same thing on our side that they had on the white side. But we had problems on the buses. There were so many servicemen, you had to get in line to catch a bus.
They wanted us to sit on the back of the bus, and next couple rows up or whatever.
I had 2 occasions in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And we were lined up at midnight to catch a bus to come back to Jacksonville to go to camp. And the bus driver refused to drive the bus. And the white Marine says, these Marines have to get on the bus just like we do. They have to be to camp just like we do. And the bus driver said, I'm sorry, but I can't drive the bus. And the Marine said, I'm sorry, you don't have to drive the bus. So they drove the bus and left the bus driver standing there. And there was 2 occasions that happened. The white Marines took the bus. They stood up for us.
But I always stood up all the way to Kinston and Wilmington anyway. So I didn't want to wrinkle my khakis. So if you sit down, and that was it. So I stood up all the way to Kinston and all the way.
After boot camp, they called out the battalion, and they picked 32 people, and I was one of those 32. He said, you were picked to be drill instructors. So they took us through hell and high water to be drill instructors. So I guess you might say we were the first real NCO leadership company that went through boot camp, that to be drill instructors. We had a visit, and of course all of us wondered why we were called out in the afternoon. They don't usually call you out in the afternoon, it's in the morning. It was President Roosevelt visit our camp. And he made a speech, and the speech was, you men have broken every record. This out there, he was talking about the first battalion, And as far as I'm concerned, you're just as good as any other Marine that put on a uniform, sent them overseas. That was his remarks. Well, I felt pretty good.
We was very proud in our corps and our uniform.